see me live, so, but that's what I do. I can guarantee to you that the minister is here. The Statistician-General of South Africa is here. So is the chair of council. So all the speakers on the program are here. It's only for me to manage logistics, of which I will take leave of yourselves for just a few minutes, just to manage a few things, and I make sure they are here. But as common courtesy, I will request you to make sure the phone of the person seated next to you is off, because if it rings, I'm going to hold you responsible for that. So you don't want to be held responsible for the person seated next to you. And because I see you have gotten into the line of liking to laugh and something, I can as well deliver you one from the village. Are you ready for that? I didn't hear that, yes. Oh, great. You know, we go and count people in the villages. So, and we have to go and see the Induna, or the most popular person, the teacher, the information, the opinion leader in the village. So we arrive in this village and say, take us to Induna Malulege's place. And this little boy says, yes, you know, you want to go to Induna Malulege's place. You go, you find the shop, you turn right, you go. As usual, you know, they are very dramatic in the way they explain, because they say you go. That sound must go off at the back, please. I'm the one who's in charge now. Yeah. So now they tell you, you go, and they direct us. And they say to us,
because like we are equal going to...
Yes, sir, I'm coming.
Please kindly be seated. Minister in the Presidency for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, Honorable Jeff Hadebe. The Chairperson of the Statistics Council of South Africa, Mr. Ben Phahlele. The Statistician-General of South Africa and Head of Stats SA, Mr. Pali Lehohla, Dr. Pali Lehohla. Welcome again this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, my name is Risenga Maluleke. I work for Stats SA. We have a lot of protocols to adhere to. One of the protocols is that at 1930, 7:30 for those who are using the o'clock, we will be beaming live to the TV stations. And I can give you assurances that if you want to appear on TV, let us make the job of the program director a lot more easier. As of now, we have all the time, so we're going to use the time that I have at my control. But as we gather here this evening, let me tell you that we're meeting to release the results of the community survey of 2016. The Statistics Act dictates to
Statistician-General, Program Director, members of the press, official of the Statistics SA, fellow council members, good evening. It has already been mentioned that the council is appointed in terms of the Statistics Act to advise the minister and the Statistician-General. And we advise them even in the community survey. And through its population and social statistics and methodology and standard subcommittees, the council has closely monitored all stages of the community survey. From the preparation of the first planning documents through technical issues such as the sampling frame and questionnaire designs, to the fieldwork and data processing activities, as well as the compilation of the official release and presentations. Now, we have employed quite a team of international experts to assist council to evaluate the data as it was presented. And having received all these reports from various technical advisors, as well as the reports from the technical endowed members of the council, council recommends to the minister, the Honorable J.T. Hadebe, Presidency Ministry for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, that he supports the release of the results of the community survey. Council commends StatSA for its decision to make the community survey data available to all to all free of charge. And StatSA has assured Council that the complete levels of confidentiality of individual responses to the survey will not be compromised by the release of or the publication of the survey. Council is satisfied that the procedures followed during the preparation of the community survey have been transparent, and that there had not been any interference by government in terms of the processes, data collection, and the release of the data. Council finds the content of the Community Survey 2016 to be relevant to the information and planning needs of the country, coherent and substantially internationally consistent. Given the nature of all official statistics in all countries, Council recognizes that the Community Survey 2016 cannot be error-free. As such, Council has focused on determining whether the data collected by the community survey are fit for use, and indeed, Council concluded that the data is fit for use. In terms of the levels of methodological soundness with which the community survey was conducted, Council concluded that the community survey satisfactorily followed internationally accepted procedures at all stages, right from the design, implementation, and processing. However, we note that the major concern with the community survey arose from responses arising from enumerators being unable to reach the identified dwelling units. This was especially high in Western Cape and Gauteng. In the cases of the former, that is Western Cape, the usual practice of non-response in high-income enumerators areas was compounded by the prevalence of violence. And we therefore put a cautionary that the utilization of these data, where you find that there is a large non-response, be utilized with caution. Council notes that data relating to the perceived quality of service provision should be analyzed as views of those who raised the service, rather than as objective assessment of the availability of the service. Due to the internal and external inconsistencies of high non-response, Council advises that it has been unable to determine whether data concerning the tenure of dwelling and land and data concerning income are fit for use. Council also notes that processing of data concerning employment trends is still in progress, and this data will be released within Q3 of the quarterly labor force survey. Council has reviewed analysis of the remaining variable and considered this data to be fit for use. Let me thank, in conclusion, the South African Statistics Council, and conclude by saying the South African Statistics Council would like to commend the SSA for collectively and individual members of its staff for the thorough, committed, and professional manner in which they had conducted the survey. Many thanks, ladies and gentlemen, goes to the South African families, men and women, who opened their doors to the enumerators and gave the valuable information now contained in this community survey. To participate in a survey is a right, and it actually makes it easy that planning can become much more effective as it will be informed by statistics. And therefore, the invaluable contribution that these families have made is highly appreciated. We are saddened, in fact, by the loss of life during the survey, and we lost 6 staff members of State SA, and Council wishes to make an official expression of condolences to the loss of, to all the families that are bereaved in the circumstances. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson of the Statistics Council. We have to capture the presentation by the Statistician-General and the response by the Minister live, so I had to be a bit harsh with my Chairperson of Council, but I didn't want to limit their independence, so I had to allow him a bit of space. They say that Statistics South Africa comes to you from both sides. The one you have to look at, and the one that you find. If you find a good look, then you have looked well.
The universe is amazing, amazing. Spans millions of years, but yet knowable. In the last 20 years, we have been hard at work building an important foundation, the blood life of a nation, the numbers that count and inform the nation, a conduit of trust. In particular, the last 5 years have been spectacular. What did you do with the last 5 years? You could have earned a degree. Perhaps you build a new home for your family. Or you use the time to write the novel that you have always promised yourself you were going to write. In terms of technology, 5 years is a lifetime. Don't believe me? Think back to your cell phone 5 years ago. Think about the one friend you knew who owned a tablet. Compare that to now. The world is constantly changing, shifting indeed. The rate of change is accelerating at an unprecedented pace. And in order to remain relevant, we have to shift with it or risk becoming obsolete. There's something else you can do in 5 years. You can completely transform an organization. TSA has also spent the last 5 years upgrading and improving. And like a caterpillar in a cocoon, we have become a beautiful butterfly. We are doing far more now with far less. We entered an arena of digital georeferencing and mapping. We have embedded smart devices into our value chain. We are moving away from paper questionnaires to digital collection systems. We are doing far more now with far less. Our community survey project budgeted has halved, and our sample size has more than quadrupled. We have set up scalable infrastructure, and now we are watching it work for us. at the touch of a button, data is sent to our data center to be processed, analyzed, and integrated into various statistical models. We have engaged a wider audience, and all with fewer resources and utilizing a better model for cost efficiency. It is the story of connecting people and places through improved technology for better data and for better policy outcomes. That's what we chose to do in 5 years. We chose to become better, faster, and cheaper. How are you going to choose to spend your next 5 years? We'll continue to innovate, reimagine and transform how technology works for us to improve the provision of official statistics, to improve how we tell the story of the South Africa I know, the home I understand. We'll do that through the conduit of trust, statistics.
Honorable Minister, Chair of Council, members of Council, staff, ladies and gentlemen, I am here to present to you the results of the community survey, the conversation of the RDP as it transforms itself into the NDP, projecting into the future what South Africa would look like. The question is, where have we been? We have been all over. We have been in Makado. We have been under King Shaka. We have been under King Mushweshwe. We have been under a number of kings and chiefs. We have been under warriors. In 1652, even Van Riebeck, we are under. We are under Verwoerd. And indeed, Verwoerd said to us, what's the use of teaching Bantu child mathematics when it can't do it in practice? Thus rendering blacks irrelevant in this country. And in the course of presenting these results, we'll show how this has panned out. Indeed, we saw the Soweto riots in 1976. The question is, what has happened to those 40 years now? We have seen Nelson Mandela presenting to him the results.
But we do at last have results with which we can work. Numbers that count for the nation. It will take time to absorb the full detail of this intricate picture of our complex society. But the broad outlines should act as a clarion call to rededicate ourselves in every sector of our society to the historic mission of a generation charged with transforming South African society in order to eradicate the poverty and imbalances that derive from our past.
It was President Nelson Mandela here in this very hall in 1998 when we released the census results. Now, we are in 2016. How has the population of South Africa grown? We do know that in 1996 we were 40.6 million. Then we moved to 44.8 million, then 50 million, and then 58 million, which is the number that we have today in 2016. But we have 9 provinces. How have the provinces performed? We got Gauteng, it's the biggest province. 1 million people moved into Gauteng from 2001 to 2016. The whole of Northern Cape, in less than 5 years, moved into Gauteng. The DG of Gauteng always asks me, how can you increase the population of Gauteng? I say, well, I'll visit the Northern Cape as many times as I can, but I doubt if we will increase the population. Indeed, this is the population of the municipalities. There we have Gauteng, there we have KwaZulu-Natal, and we have Western Cape, and then, of course, in the Eastern Cape, we have these municipalities, and the populations are much higher there. What has happened to the municipal growth? The municipalities grew, and indeed over time, 1998, we see the growth slowing, growing. There's growth here, there's also growth up there in Zimbabwe, in northern Limpopo, as an effect of, the people from Zim visiting us. And indeed, this cartogram shows the relative size of Gauteng relative to the rest of the other countries. And of course, wipes altogether the Northern Cape, because of this is a weighted population size. Now, migration and immigration. We see a number of people from outside moving a lot more to Gauteng, from outside, moving a lot more to Western Cape, and this is how international migration has occurred. And of course, we have seen people moving out of the provinces moving to, of South Africa as well, moving to other areas. I'll just show you immigration briefly. And emigration. Quite a number of people moving out of South Africa from Gauteng into other areas, from Western Cape, from Gauteng, Northwest, and all those provinces, people have moved out of South Africa over this period. What has happened between provinces? A very interesting picture emerges. And of course, if you look at this by race, whites, largely moving from Gauteng and retiring in Western Cape. This is the stream of migration if you look at the white population. A lot of them moving there. The age group 0 to 14, the young ones migrating into Gauteng, migrating a lot more into Gauteng, the youth 0 to 14, moving a lot more into Gauteng, and indeed putting a lot of pressure on education resources in Gauteng. This is the South Africa I know, the home I understand. Oh yes, the elderly. Oh, the elderly, the elderly. Let's look at the elderly. The elderly, 65 plus, who are white. Oh, elderly black African. Let's look at them. The black Africans, elderly, moving back from Gauteng to Limpopo to die. Moving back from the Western Cape to Western Cape to die. What about whites? Look at whites. The whites, absolutely going to retire in the Western Cape. Now, between metros, there's movement, of course. A lot of movement between Gauteng and Western Cape, a lot of movement between KwaZulu-Natal and the metros in Gauteng. Now, reasons for migration. Wouldn't you like to come to where they migrate to this place? Divorce, marriage, new home, job transfer. These are some of the reasons for migration, and we need to know where these people have migrated to. We'll show all this is available as to those who are seeking new relations with the divorcees can always go there and find new people there. What about the progress of South African provinces? And here we'll be looking at health, we'll be looking at education, we'll be looking at sanitation and provision of water and services. Here we have child mortality on this axis, and here we are having income, purchasing power parity adjusted and in dollar terms. Here is 20,000 per capita, here is 4,000 per capita. And we can compare South Africa with countries such as this one here. Limpopo matches that country up there in terms of income, equal to almost Indonesia. We can compare Gauteng, for instance, with this here, Russia. And indeed Western Cape with this country here, Iran and Venezuela. Now, let's see what has happened to child mortality against income over time. There we can see. There we are. Have we started moving? Gauteng, mortality, child mortality decreasing. Western Cape, a little bit slant. Now look at KwaZulu-Natal, child mortality decreasing. Where are we? We are 2008. Northern Cape as well. Northern Cape, child mortality. Look at Free State. All over. Child mortality is decreasing. No more weeping mothers. No more weeping mothers. As we move to 2012, you see that child mortality against income has decreased. However, the decreases of child mortality and the levels of child mortality in Western Cape are much higher than in Gauteng, although Western Cape has lower income. We can see KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga, and the Free State remain up there and Northwest. Eastern Cape, with less income, still higher child mortality, but all in all, child mortality has decreased. Mothers are weeping less. Now, what about life expectancy? The number of years that you expect to live in your lifetime. That number of years is against per capita income. And this is South Africa, and this is China, and this is India. Let's see how this has played itself up to 2013. there's child mortality, life expectancy declining in South Africa, life expectancy declining in China, increasing. There, we turn the corner, South Africa increases, but income slows down. And by 2013, life expectancy has increased in South Africa to about 6. But we also have life expectancy by province. Western Cape, almost closer to Russia, Gauteng, and Mpumalanga. And of course, life expectancy in all these provinces is differential. Africa across itself looks more like different countries in the world. What about municipality services and challenges? What we are going to show you here is about water, electricity. And then we'll move on to other. Now let's see what has happened. There, 60 to 80% flattens a bit. Oh my God, there's drought coming, and then provision of water in South Africa declines, in particular in Limpopo and Northwest. However, in Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, provision of water has always been a problem in terms of elevation. Now, what has happened to water access? What do people say? Let's come here. This is Musa, in the Eastern Cape, Musa Hill. People are not very happy with the provision of water, and of course access to water is very low. But when we move this way, we come to the metros. Of course, 100% access to water in Western Cape, in Swellendam, in the city of Matlosane, yet satisfaction levels are a little bit still low. Yet access is very high. The objective data says access is very high. Now, let's see what happens to electricity. But Mkanyakude still remains without electricity. Every other area has got electricity except Mkanyakude. Now, let's see where these deficiencies, and here is Umhlaba Yalingana in Mkanyakude. And then another one is here, which is Josini. All these areas have not received electricity. Here, there is access to electricity at about 94%. Level of satisfaction up 80%. Perceived municipal challenges, lack of safe. What are challenges? There are 3 of them. We know water supply in Limpopo and in Northwest. We saw that in Eastern Cape and indeed in Musa Hill. Water. Number 2, perceived challenges, inadequate employment. And finally, perceived challenges are costs of electricity. And poverty by municipality. Chief, you are saying now I should go. This is what we see in terms of poverty. This is Msinga. Msinga's poverty is actually reducing and overcoming. And there is Ntabangulu going back and Msinga overcoming it. And in the last 15 years, poverty in South Africa has actually declined. Poverty maps, and I'll skip this because it just shows that since 2011, the way poverty has performed in South Africa has been different. The net result is that unemployment and years of schooling are key drivers of poverty in South Africa. Attendance is not a problem. All these other base platform services have actually performed well. But what remains is unemployment and years of schooling. But does the nation see education as a problem? It ranges about number 15 out of 20 priorities. Now, youth and the arts we promise. Here we see unemployment by those who are graduates. 9.8%, 2.1% for whites, 0.95% for coloreds, and 6.4% for Indians. Age distribution, and this is my last bit around what has happened to age distribution proportion of matric graduates, and this is an issue that has been discussed again and again. This issue that has been discussed again and again, we can see that graduates white graduates are graduating, black graduates are actually declining relative to white and Indians who are growing. Colored and black are dropping proportionately. By 1970, there were for every 1.2 white people, there was one black person. Now, as we move around here, for every one black person, there would have been 6 whites in terms of graduation. Now, let me end my presentation by looking at this pyramid. This area here are the people who are graduates, this green. This light green is secondary education, and this side here is primary education. And here we have seen, this is the driver of the economy, the graduates. Now, looking at this educational attainment by sex is not a problem, and we can see that since 1996, this educational attainment has actually increased. But the reality is, the increase is very small relative to the challenge. These are whites who are graduates. Almost half the population, 30% of the population of whites in these age groups are graduates amongst blacks. Look at that against this. And the serious problem that we have to think about is whether demographic dividend South Africa. This is the challenge. This is the challenge, and you can see the proportion. And in absolute numbers, this cannot carry this country. Whites cannot carry this country. The numbers are too small. Here is the graduate population of blacks against all this. And this is a problem that has to be tackled going forward. So, the question that we really have to ask, these people here were children 24 years ago. They are now mothers to this number here. The question is, will these people who are here with very little education be able to finance the education of their children? This is the challenge that South Africa faces. Therefore, the model of financing cannot depend on people who are unemployed. And if that doesn't happen, I shudder to say what will be there. So, the question...
It's been 5 years.
Oh, sorry. The question of the demographic dividend is a serious issue. Whether the generation of 1996, which lost education and remain unemployed, can carry the current generation whose education they cannot finance. That heralds disaster for South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Statistician-General. In the interest of time, there is something, the Lerato story, that I will conclude with after the Statistician-General has handed the results over to the Minister. The Statistician-General has released the results. He's handing them over to the Minister so that the Minister can respond. Minister and Statistician-General, may I invite you to the front so that you can hand over the results, upon which I will invite Minister to the podium to address. I need them further front for possibilities of pictures.
That was the project director, Dokman, Minister. Thank you. Here is the body of data that we have to use. Thank you very much. Thank you.
On that note, let me invite the Minister in the Presidency responsible for planning, monitoring, and evaluation, Honorable Hadebe.
Thank you, Director of the Program, Mr. Maluleke, the Chair of the Statistics Council, Ben Mpahlele, and other members of Council, the Statistician-General, Pali Lehohla, all distinguished guests who are present here this evening. Today marks a very important occasion in the continued evolution of our constitutional democracy. National transformation is an express mandate flowing from our democratic constitution, which enjoins all of us to heal the divisions of the past. Undoubtedly, the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality have their roots in the history of our protracted struggle, which was aimed at negating apartheid oppression and ultimately ushering our democracy in 1994. Today, in 2016, South Africa is a much better place than it was in 1994. We know this because statistics tells us so. We have achieved various developmental goals in providing houses, electricity, water, infrastructure such as roads, social grants for the indigent, accessible primary, secondary, and post-school education, and a host of other issues in order to further our national transformation agenda. This can be confirmed by statistics as elaborated in the 20-year review report and other departmental annual performance reports. This community survey further alludes to that work. However, we are the first as government to acknowledge that much is as yet to be done to reverse the over 300 years of colonialism and 4 decades of conceited apartheid misrule. Again, we know this because statistics tells us so. In 1994, we adopted the Reconstruction and Development Program as our visionary blueprint to confront many of the developmental challenges occasioned by the system of apartheid. Over the past 2 decades of political freedom, we further buttressed our constitutional democracy with institutional and policy frameworks as a legal basis for all our programs of transformation. Amongst these was the consolidation of States SA as a competent, world-class statistics gathering machinery. The highlight of where we are today and where we must go tomorrow into the future is spelled out through our National Development Plan, our Vision 2030, which is the plan of the people by the people of South Africa. Our government has wholeheartedly embraced this plan, which was crafted by the best minds from our South African society, from across the length and breadth of our beautiful land. As a government, we are steaming ahead with the implementation of the NDP Vision 2030. And integral to the NDP is the policy framework to develop young people so that we tap to the demographic dividend of an increasingly young but potentially economically active young population. Statistics in general and the 2016 community survey in particular, as here presented by Pali Lehohla today, is like a compass on the myriad of policy decisions that we must take in order to develop South African society. Our national transformation agenda must be quantified, must be qualified, and these statistics today will help us exactly to achieve that end. These statistics are therefore the compass on the interventions we must make to accelerate national transformation as enjoined by our democratic constitution. And for us as a government, it further spells out in our elections manifesto. On areas of education, on health, on life expectancy, on property relations, food security, job creation, entrepreneurship, safety and security, and a lot more, these statistics will help us to pinpoint where we need urgent and decisive policy interventions to accelerate the change in South Africa. From the planning, monitoring, and evaluation point of view, the broad scope of government work, we welcome this 2016 community survey as a very crucial addition towards enabling a better understanding of our work, both in public and private sectors. It is our emphasis that our work must be evidence-based, and these statistics will help us achieve exactly that. As our hero Amilcar Cabral famously declared, we too can concur that we must tell no lies and claim no easy victories. Statistics that have been scientifically gathered do not lie. Therefore, this occasion this evening is about getting a true picture of where we are today. And very importantly, community survey must consequently enable every citizen to understand what become their roles, both with regards to public and private discourse and action in furthering the goals of a better South Africa that is antithetical to the apartheid thesis that we inherited in 1994. States SA has become a very critical asset through which government, the private sector, labor, and civil society interact together as a nation. The National Planning Commission will be amongst those critical institutions that will find these statistics very useful in their work. Without much ado, allow me to thank States SA, led by Statistician-General Dr. Pali Lehohla, as well as States General Council, chaired by Ben Mphahlele, for continuously giving us a very objective and clear view of where we are as regards to all areas of development, and therefore assisting us in knowing where we must go into the future. Before I sit down, I also want to join all those who are indicating our heartfelt condolences to all those field workers who perished during this community survey in 2016. They are Thandi Constance Nkumba from Limpopo, Mchitegi Dege from Gauteng, Stembiso Shangase from KwaZulu-Natal, Thabo Moliko from Eastern Cape, Louisa Nakaki from Eastern Cape, Duval Johnson from Western Cape, and Stanley Mapagane, who passed away in Eastern Cape when he was deployed by head office there to assist with the IT. With those few words, I would like to accept on behalf of government this community survey 2016. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Jeff Radebe. We can be sure that these results, Statistician-General, have been delivered to the right place. The Minister is responsible for monitoring, for planning, monitoring, and evaluation. So, and please, journalists, when we ask you to come to the fore to talk to the Minister and the Statistician-General, don't ask the Minister about the numbers. He has just received them. The Statistician-General releases the numbers. The Minister receives them. So you can't expect him to talk about the numbers today. You can ask him about policy issues. He certainly will deal with those issues. And on that note, there is a story of Lerato that I have promised you. You know, I'm full of promises, and I keep my promises. So I would like to invite you. In 2011, we told the story of Lerato. Let us follow again with the story of Lerato.
It's been 5 years since the last census that was conducted in 2011. In this census 2011, we told the story of the South Africa I know, the home I understand, through the eyes of Lerato, a young university student who lived with her family in Ennerdale, Johannesburg. Like many of her peers, Lerato is a young woman who faces adulthood in a rapidly changing society. She has gone through some changes in her family and personal life. Her dear grandmother passed on at age 75 since. Despite her grief, Lerato took comfort in recently finding out that her grandmother lived well beyond the life expectancy for South African females, which is 66 years. Her father, a self-employed car mechanic who is Lerato's personal hero, has been struggling to maintain his business. The tough economic conditions in the country have impacted on his clients, who are now cutting back on some of their spending. Although on average, the income received by households has increased from 103,000 to 115,000, a nominal 11.8% increase. This increase has not been evenly distributed and Lerato's family has not benefited from it. Her mother took early retirement due to her ill health. All these changes have impacted on Paul, Lerato's brother, and he is thinking of dropping out of university to go look for work. He is an active participant of the #Fees Must Fall movement as he understands the impact of expensive education on poor households. He's cognizant of the decision he's making. He'll be joining the ranks of the young, unskilled, and probably unemployable who make up 91.3% of youth unemployment. Lerato doesn't agree with Paul's decision to drop out. However, she appreciates his reasons. She has been doing her best to supplement her family's income even though she has moved out of home. She'd like to do more, but she's now a single mother to a 3-month-old baby. Lerato is not unique. She's one of the 3 million single mothers in South Africa in the age group 15 to 34, and also she's one of the many young people who have established their own households. This has contributed to the number of households increasing by 2 million, while the average household size has decreased to 3.4 per household from above 4 persons per household in 1996. As our democracy is now 22 years, the question and development challenges are about how will Tabisile, Lerato's sister, who is now 8 years old, and Indil Lerato's baby, who is 3 months old, fare in the next 20 years. Will they face a life of university dropout? Will they face a life of youth unemployment? Will they face a life unfulfilled? Or will the implementation of the National Development Plan save their futures and guarantee a better life for their children?
So goes the story of Lerato. Minister, you will remember that when results of 2011 were delivered and the story of Lerato was told, when we went to other meetings, because it was decided that we should go and brief cabinet and other planning structures, the president kept on asking the Statistician-General, what about Lerato? What has happened to her life circumstances? So on behalf of government, as you receive these results, not only in your capacity as a minister who has responsibility for Stats SA, you may pass on the message that Lerato is still there. On that note,